Mm. Good morning and welcome to the Mobile Overview Report webinar for October through December of 2021 or Q4 of 2021. Thanks for joining us this morning. Today, your hosts are myself. I'm Ken Jones, the Vice President of Marketing for Scientia Mobile. And this morning, I have to assist me, Amar. Amar, give yourself an introduction.
Hey, I'm Amar Kalbergi, and I'm the mobile data analyst here at Scientia Mobile.
Yes, Amar is one of the people who keeps track of the thousands and thousands of new devices that are released every year and helps our Wurfel device detection stay on top of all the changes in the market. So we're lucky to have him on this webinar with us. So this morning, we're going to spend about 30 minutes going over some statistics from Q4 of 2021. We're going to go over some spotlight reports, I'll call them, on some certain subjects. So the first one is we're going to talk about the readiness of the number of 5G ready devices that are out there. Now, whether they're actually using a 5G network is debatable. It's a chicken and egg thing. You got to have both. But we'll go over the device side of the equation. And then we'll take a look at LG smartphones and their announcement to exit the smartphone business. We'll kind of take a historic look at the decline of LG and some of the pressures that are there in the smartphone market today. Then we'll take a look at Sweden. Every time we do one of these webinars, we'd like to highlight certain countries, and I thought it'd be a good time to loop back to Sweden. There's some interesting statistics there. Then we'll go over our standard mobile overview reports, the top smartphones, operating system, and we'll leave some time for some questions also. So let's take a look at 5G readiness amongst smartphones. Globally, the takeaway is that about 15% of devices that we're seeing in use are 5G ready. The flip side of that is 85% of them are not 5G ready. And, we're at a stage in the market where it's certainly grown a fair amount since a year ago or a year and a half ago, where we were looking at somewhere around the 2% mark. The Koreans were one of the first to launch a 5G network. Likewise, Samsung, Korean manufacturer, was one of the first to put out 5G devices. But now we're starting to see the iPhones adopt 5G technology. Amara, what are you seeing there in terms of 5G devices?
Right. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. We had the Samsungs, the Huawei's of the world creating 5G devices, but we really didn't start to see adoption until Apple created a 5G device. And now that Apple has a 5G device, we're seeing that adoption pick up.
Yeah, we haven't really hit we're clearly a far cry away from the 50% mark, but you can tell that if Apple has started to integrate this, we're going to start to probably get much faster growth toward that 50% mark. Looking at on the left here, we have the 5G ready devices, and just kind of taking them as a whole. The blockbuster amongst those 5G devices is the iPhone 12 version. So, we're seeing the iPhone 12 Pro, Pro Max all have 5G readiness built into them. Likewise, the 13, everything coming after that. Just so everybody's aware, this is Q4 of 2021 that we're talking about. So the iPhone 13 was released in September of 2021. So its place in the market is still relatively small, but it's growing. Likewise, we see some of the Samsung Galaxies, the S versions, some of their premiums. Even though it's interesting, I see the Galaxy A52 That device, describe that to me a little bit, Amar. That's more of their budget phone?
Sure, the A series is a budget phone, but these days these budget phones pack a lot of punch. So
Yeah.
it's nice to see that they're picking up.
Yeah, that's a very interesting inclusion in there. So we're starting to see the budget phones include these 5G technologies. But as a whole, looking at the percentages, only 15% of the market has these, and on the right you can get a sense of even the largest of the phones, iPhone 12, is only around 2% of the overall smartphone market. Now let's talk a little bit about LG. Um, so LG decided to exit the business in 2021, and I still see a couple of LGs on the shelves here in the United States. Um, but clearly it's the end of the game here, and they never were. I would say we've seen a collapse of the market into almost a duopoly where you've got Apple and Samsung controlling a huge swath of the market, and then there's a number of smaller manufacturers out there. Most of them, the remaining ones these days are Chinese manufacturers, and LG was a little bit different in that they were Korean manufacturer, um, and they always were kind of third, fourth place, depending on what year you were in. Back in 2014, they had 8 to 10% of the market, which was great, or at least it was enough to make a business of it. But these days, they dropped to 2%, and in the United States and in Asia, is even lower than that, and in Europe likewise. So they saw a steady decline, and given that LG is a corporation, a conglomerate of sorts with lots of other businesses other than the smartphone business, it doesn't surprise me that given the cost of operating a smartphone business, that they decided to exit. It probably was a financially smart decision. Um, but looking back at the history of not just smartphones but phone manufacturers, there are a litany of really impressive brands out there that have fallen into what I'll call zombie status. Looking at like Nokia, Motorola, Blackberry, all of these companies were at one point leading the market with really amazing technology. And it just goes to show how quickly things can change. Like when the iPhone was introduced back in what I want to say 2005. Yeah, Mark, keep me honest there. Um, the fates of these companies changed extremely quickly. Um, Now, of course, they still exist today. I call them zombies because the brands have been purchased up by other people, and manufacturers are using the brands to sell phones. Um, like for example, Nokia and BlackBerry. Amar, you said that these are actually owned and by
Right. So
other
Nokia is owned
companies.
by HMD Global, and BlackBerry is also owned by TCL. And BlackBerry has stayed pretty true to their name. They still make phones with keyboards and whatnot. Nokia, on the other hand, they're really a shell of their former selves. They don't have their own OS. They use Android like everyone else. So people have a tough time trying to figure out why should they buy a Nokia phone just based off the name.
Right, right. And I think looking at the challenges here on the right, it's interesting. I mean, clearly there's an engineering challenge. Every year you have to kind of look at the new chipsets, and there's a huge fixed cost in terms of keeping abreast of the technology. Um, but also, from a marketing standpoint, what makes a phone different? I think these days, I Apple and iPhone, they're relatively distinctive in the whole ecosystem they've built and the devices they manufacture. Samsung seems to be kind of synonymous with Android at this point, but there are a number of Android competitors, and it's hard to tell what really makes a phone different, that someone would want to buy it. And I think that's clearly one of the challenges that LG had. Why would someone want an LG phone relative to a Samsung device? Um, and the interesting thing about these companies on the left, the Motorola and the BlackBerry, they especially the Motorola. I was thinking about this because you look at the the flip devices that are coming out, with the bendable screens, that we started seeing. I want to say that was like 3 years ago, and uh, you know, clearly Motorola made their uh, their mark on the market years ago with their Razor phone, and it'd be interesting to see if they reclaim that sort of um, position, and if flip phones ever come back. But yeah, it's huge challenges in terms of supply chain, marketing, engineering, and achieving the scale necessary to really cover what are very large fixed costs. It's a very competitive industry, um, and I suspect we'll probably see more consolidation in the market. So Sweden, we actually did some reports on Sweden a couple years ago, so we're flipping back and seeing what's changed. A lot of these are, I think, the takeaway for me looking at the most popular smartphones here is what a uh, Apple-centric country Sweden is. They really have embraced the iPhone. All of the top 10 smartphones that we track in Sweden are iPhones. Um, Once again, on in terms of timing, the 13 isn't quite on this list yet of top 10. It probably falls just beneath it. Um, and outside of the iPhone Apple manufacturing, you see that Samsung is actually a pretty distant second place, and then things are spread out amongst other uh, Android manufacturers. It's interesting to see some of these names. There's LG hanging on there, um, but these are a lot of these are Chinese manufacturers at this point with Huawei. Uh, yeah, very interesting to see where this market might go. And this chart really kind of drives home, even the U.S., which I would say is a very Apple centric country. Uh, Sweden is even more so. So 52 versus 58 for the iOS devices. Oop, oh, sorry. Oh, here we go. Then in terms of the age of uh, of devices, you can see that the US and Sweden are pretty much neck and neck. There's not a huge disconnect in terms of the um, the ages. Most common age was that 1 to 2 year lifespan. Most people are hanging on to it somewhere around 24 months. But these days, these devices, probably more so than 4 or 5 years ago, we've got people hanging on to devices for longer periods of time. And in terms of the price that people in Sweden are paying, they tend to be paying more for the premium brands, hence the iPhone. So 72% of people are paying, in terms of the manufacturer's suggested retail price, 72% are paying over $700 for their phones. And the middle market actually is relatively small. Otherwise, you're looking at budget phones that are probably made by Chinese manufacturers. So let's take a look at the Q4 stats for global and across various continents. The iPhone 11 is the device with the largest global share right now at 8.4%. And the second largest belongs to the iPhone XR, which is half of that at 4.3. A couple of things to note about this list is the only non-Apple devices are the Samsung Galaxy A series, which are more budget phones. What's not on this list is the Samsung Galaxy S series, so they're premium devices. It's very interesting. Actually, I put in 5 years ago in 2017 for comparison. What we do to create these lists is that we look at the top devices in each continent and combine all those top 10 lists into a single list. So theoretically, with 6 continents, you might get 60 different things, but the reality is there's a lot of overlap between and similarities. And 5 years ago, there was a little bit more fragmentation, and clearly there was a lot more popularity of some of the Samsung devices. In addition, their S series, their premium series, had much larger market share at that point. These days, really, their budget phones are the only ones that are really getting a mass market out there. And in terms of the market share, the Android still is the largest in terms of overall global market share, with iOS at around 36%. And on the right, I apologize and I don't apologize for how much of a eyesore this is, but this goes to show, the challenges and the fragmentation that we're seeing in terms of the number of different operating system versions that are out there. Right now, Android 11 is the most popular operating system with 20%, and there it is. And on the iOS side, 14.8 in terms of the snapshot of when we took this, was the most popular version with 4.7. But when you look at this is the iOS operating system trend. iOS, traditionally has had a much more frequent and smoother upgrade path. People change very quickly to the latest version. So you can see that like 15.1 had almost 50% of the market by the end of 2021. And but a new version was coming out with 15.2, and I suspect if we took a look at that today, it would probably be up close to 50% also. Whereas you can see there's much more slow transition in the Android side of the house. The Android 11 is the most. By the end of the quarter, it was the most popular with 38%. And I think that's about it. I wanted to highlight a couple of things for you. In terms of device detection, we put together these reports based upon Sensha Mobile's device detection technology. And there is a big change going on in the market relative to how device detection works. Typically, when you're browsing, we would be inspecting what they call the user agent string that is included in the HTTP request. Google has started to push a change here called client hints that will replace the user agent string. So user agent client hints will be replacing user agent strings. And the transition is going on today. And the big news is that we are all ready and in production with a device detection API that allows us to reconcile the differences between the user agent string and the user agent client hints and still accurately detect devices. So if you're interested in device detection, please contact us. If you're interested in mobile data reports, please contact us. We can provide you with a custom mobile overview report. If there's certain geographies or technologies you're interested in, we're more than happy to talk to you about our ability to look at various geographies, capabilities, timeframes, and we can establish a rhythm for delivering these reports to you. All right, so I think that's all we have today. Amar, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And we will be putting out our next report in about a quarter. If you want to sign up for the MOVR report, please contact us at scientiamobile.com and find the MOVR reports subscription list, and we'll put you on the list and get you a new report every quarter. Thanks, Amar, and I will see you in a quarter. Bye-bye.